Hello everybody, and welcome back to another BlitzFox video. Today we've got something new, so I apologize if it seems a bit muddled, but anyways, today I'm talking about Darktide. Yeah! I'll be talking about the setting, missions, gameplay, pretty much everything that you really need to know to start off the game with a few tips sprinkled in there to help you out if I find somewhere to put them in. So without further ado, let's get into it because I have a feeling this is going to be a long video for my channel. Darktide is a co-op FPS game set in, oh boy, the Warhammer 40k universe. I know, middle-aged, man, nerd, miniature game, blah blah, Space Marine, blah blah. Personally, I'm a big 40k fan, and I started playing it a few years ago. The fun thing about Darktide is you don't need to know anything about this. Not a thing about 40k. Yay! I just suggest you watch the intro to the actual game to get some basics and the just understanding behind the game if you don't already know anything about 40k, because it's a nice graphic. I'm playing in the background actually now for the opening of this video, and it gives you all that you need to know to understand what's happening. I was going to give a description of like the background, but I'm not going to do that because that's going to take forever and just lengthen the video. So yeah. Alright, well, with that out of the way, we have the game loop. The game loop is simple. Start here, do this, leave. There's several things to do, from scanning stuff to a bunch of other different things, killing people. You know, there's just a lot of different stuff you can do on different maps with different, like, situations and modifiers that are happening. But we'll talk about that later. Alright, everyone, now we're getting into the game itself. This will be split into 3 parts: missions, classes, and enemies. So let's get right into it because there is quite frankly, a lot to cover. Alright, so as I said before, the gameplay loop is simple. You're dropped somewhere in Tertium, you do a mission ranging from, as I said before, scanning stuff to just finding and killing a dude, and afterwards you extract, you leave. There's a good amount of mission types, but the general ones will be like Auspex scan, the scanning one, assassination, the killing the dude one, ones where you just go and do something for somebody, like, oh, go put these cryonic rods to cool down this forge. Stuff like that, just a bunch of different things that you can do. I'm not going to go over the whole mission pass, anything like that. That's a lot. I don't need to do that. But I will tell you the 3 hardest missions, and that is both of the desert missions and the first carnival map that got released. They're just significantly harder to do. I find that when I load into them, I expect that the run will either go much poorer than usual, or I will just go into it sometimes straight up expecting it not to finish, depending on my modifiers. Next is the difficulties, ranging from 1 to 5. There's names for them, but I'm not going to give you them. Personally, I play level 2 until around level 10, then Malice, which is level 3, until 20 or so, and finally level 4, Heresy, to finish leveling my character. This is because otherwise, I found that I don't really end up finishing my missions all that much. And of course that changes with the class I'm using. Like Ogren, I was able to do harder missions earlier because it's an Ogren. They just don't die. Your abilities and damage will just be much lower, and you'll end up being you'll end up hurting your team, essentially, because you don't have any of the stuff you need to survive those higher difficulties and help out the team. Now, there's modifiers. There's a lot of modifiers. However, they boil down to a couple different things, but not that many: low intensity, high intensity, shock troop, gauntlet, and hunting grounds. They will be added together to make stuff like high intensity shock troop, gauntlet, or low intensity hunting grounds. Pretty much anything but low high intensity, because that doesn't make sense. Make sure to check if you're not doing quick play, which is, I only play quick play. Quick play essentially just plops you into a match. It might be one that's not started yet. It might be one that has started. Generally, they try to get you into ones that haven't started, I found. But it gives you more stuff when you do that. But if you don't want to, just do whatever random mission there is, and you want to pick your mission because you have something you need to do, or you just want to, not get plopped into something randomly, you can select one instead. And when you do that, check your modifiers to make sure, like, hey, am I really prepared to deal with a lot of strong enemies? Am I really prepared to deal with a lot of, for instance, poxhounds is what hunting grounds are, which are a specific type of enemy that can pin you. There is another modifier, though, and that is scriptures and grimoires. And while they're both books you could just pick off of the ground, they're pretty different from one another. Scriptures are just books. You just find them. It's pretty simple. They're just books around. There's nothing special around about them. You grab them, and they give you more XP, and they give you more money when you grab them. Grimoires, however, there's less of them in the missions. Generally, there's 3 scriptures and 2 grimoires. There's less grimoires in a mission. There is just... They have a negative effect for you. Scriptures don't do anything, and can be actually kind of hard to find sometimes, but grimoires have a green glow. This green glow lets you find their position much better, but when you grab them, they give your whole team a set % health debuff, which in this thing called corruption, which I will get into later when I tell you about healing. But yeah, they're pretty good to grab them. Now there's the HUD. The HUD has a lot of... It's very well made. It's clean. It's not big and chunky and in your face. It makes sense with the actual world. It's like looks cool. It fits in with everything around you. It's just good. It shows your ammo, your grenades. It shows whatever special items you have. It shows whatever special items your teammates have and their relative ammo and grenade supply. It shows when teammates are in coherency, which can give you aura buffs. It does a lot of different things. It shows your ability, your stamina, but your stamina isn't there unless you're actually using it or it's been changed in some way, which is also good, so you don't just have a bar in the middle of your screen. And I will let you know that the ammo and grenades, the more red the color for your teammates, the more they have... the less ammo or grenades they have. So it's important to, if you're running around and you're full on ammo, to ping your ammo that you find around stuff for your teammates to grab. Next up is the classes. There's 4 classes with 3 personalities for each that change your voice lines. The 4 classes are Veteran, your classic point and shoot, manly shooter man. There's your Zealot, your melee class, your dedicated melee class. All these classes have ranged and melee, to keep in mind. They all have range and melee. So there's no like, oh, I don't want to shoot, so I'm not going to play Veteran. You can play a very good, aggressive melee Veteran. My personal Veteran, I run a plasma gun and a assault chainsword on there. I use the chainsword a lot more times. I used a plasma, in fact, I run around with the chainsword and I just pop out my gun and shoot a big guy or 2 when they come up, and then pull back out my assault chainsword and cut through my enemies. With my Zealot, I mainly just crush stuff, though. There's the Ogryn, the tank, the Psyker, your wizard, and each of them has 3 different grenades, 3 different activated abilities, and 3 different auras and 3 different keystones in their skill tree. The skill trees in this game are big. There's a lot you can do with them. You can move between different trees. You can do a bunch of stuff. But every class starts with all of these. In all the trees, there's a upgraded version of everything base. And generally, it seems to be the left-hand side of the tree will be upgraded versions of the basic, like, stuff you start with. Your basic grenade will get bigger. In the case of Ogryn, instead of just being something you throw at somebody and it hits them and does a lot of damage, it's something you throw at somebody, hits them, does a lot of damage, and then throws grenades everywhere that explode. Pretty good. The only difference to this is Psykers, which instead of having grenades, they have warp abilities, which have a special bar called Peril. I have not played a Psyker yet. I know what Psykers do, though, and they are probably... Psyker and Ogryn are the best classes in this game, in my opinion. Every time I have one or both of them on my team, or even just, like, if I have multiple Psykers, Psyker's the best class in this tree, in this game. They have the best abilities. They will carry you through missions sometimes, but you can get through any of the missions with anybody. Just sometimes some of the classes make it a lot easier. My favorite class so far has been the Ogryn. However, that does not mean it's my most played class. My most played class is Zealot. I have 1 max level Ogryn, 2 max level Zealots, and I'm about halfway through a Veteran as of currently. All are good, as I said before, but once again, Psyker and Ogryn are the best ones, in my personal opinion. But you can also do dumb stuff with all of them, like Zealots will just one-shot bosses a lot. I'll tell you about the bosses later. Going into the skill tree, you go through from level 1 to level 30. Max level is 30 in this game. You get 1 to 30 points. So you will start with 0 points at level 1. When you go to level 2, you'll get 2 points. And then you get 1 point for each level after that until you reach level 30. And you will gain no more points following that. And you will gain no more levels. You spend these points in the skill tree to upgrade and get, for instance, like I said, better Ogre Grenade that when you throw it, it blows stuff up. So that should be classes. Now moving into weapons. I'm not going to harp on this because there's a lot of weapons, and if I wanted to tell you about like, oh, this is how to do all the weapons and stuff, we'd be here way longer than any of us want to be on one of my videos. That's kind of... It's sad to be... It's real quite sad, actually, that we've come to this, but I have to talk to you for a little bit now. I'm sorry. My favorite weapons on my Zealot are my Bolter and Thunderhammer. Classic Warhammer crunchy weapons. The Bolter is nice and it shoots stuff, and when it shoots them, they explode. So that's nice. And the Thunderhammer is just a big hammer that you light up with electricity and you whack somebody with it. And it kills stuff. It kills stuff real good. It is the weapon that will be used if you want to do a one-shot martyrdom build. So that's cool. My favorite one, I've already said this on my Veteran, is my plasma gun and assault chainsword. Chainsword is pretty much a chainsaw, but it's a sword. Pretty cool. And the plasma gun just shoots plasma. It's also a tank killer weapon. And it kills pretty much everything. It has saved my life a lot because it just goes through stuff. Finally, on my Ogryn, my favorite is the shield mace and the kickback. Just because you can do a lot of silly stuff with those weapons. And the kickback kills things. And the shield and mace just kind of feels nice. It crunches stuff. And yeah. They have blessings. They have abilities that, like special activated abilities you can use. They have all... There's meta weapons, of course. Some are more viable. But if you find you like one and it does what you want it to do, use it. That's kind of the end of it. Unless you really, really want to be like meta, and then of course there's other videos you can go through. I can make a video covering the weapons more if you guys want me to, but that would be a thing where you'd have to actually tell me in the comments if you want to. There's a lot of enemies in Darktide, but they can be split into 4 main groups. Horde enemies, which are Poxwalkers and Groaners. Elite, being the just normal guys you'll find around, split between shooty guys to hitty guys. Specialists, which there's a lot of. They do a lot of crazy things, and specialists are the single most important thing to know what they are in your runs, because they will be the thing that could just single-handedly end your run. And finally, monstrosities, which they're just the bosses that will just spawn in the match to start the hordes. They're basic, they run at you and they hit you. They're zombies. And they die really fast. And there's just tons of them, and they are super satisfying to cut through or crunch through or shoot them or whatever. The combat in this game is amazing, and it's the best part of this game. Then there's the elites, which are just your basic shooty man and your basic melee man. They have different parts of their bodies that are armored, but depending on if you're fighting dregs or scabs. But generally, melee man, more heavily armored than shooting man. They shoot or they whack. It's simple. Next up, and most importantly, are the specialists. I am not going to go through all the specialists in this video because there is so many of them, but there is basic things. Trappers and Poxwalkers and Poxhounds, are the 2 that you should be very careful with and recognize their noises. They're both very loud. Trappers make a little bzzz electric noise. They make a very certain noise when they shoot their net, and they talk a lot to themselves. They talk so much to themselves. It's going to be very hard for you not to hear a trapper. Poxhounds are also very loud. They howl and they yell. What makes these guys the ones that you should be watching for in your runs is that they can pin people so that they cannot do anything, which is... Poxhounds are way easier to get off because you just hit them off or you shoot them off and they die. But if someone gets trapped, they're stuck, they will take more damage from stuff, and one of your teammates needs to physically go over to them and get them out of the net by holding whatever your interact button is. On mouse and keyboard, it's E. On console, it'll be square. There's a lot of different stuff. These two can be horrible for your team, but all the specialists can be horrible for your team. These are just two that you should know because they're ones you can't do a ton about if they hit. The bomber throws bombs that cover an entire area in fire, and it's horrible for the whole team. It's really bad for you. You do not want to recognize these guys and just stand there and be like, meh, he won't hit me. He will hit you. You will burn to death. It will hurt. They make a very loud ding. They make a very loud ding noise whenever they spawn. You will be able to hear them, and they make the same noise before they throw, and you can hear the grenade move towards you and go boop, 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 boop. Sound effects, I know. This is some production value. Next, there is just your basic melee hitty guys. There's Ragers, which are fast melee hitty guys. There's Crushers and Maulers, which Crushers are big Ogren crushy guys who just have big stuff that they hit you with. And then Maulers are normal sized dudes in tough armor with big weapons, with big chain axes that will hit you and they will hurt. Ragers, I find, are the most annoying to deal with because they attack so fast, there's no way for you to really get through their guard without just kind of stepping back and shooting them, which isn't an option sometimes, to be fully honest. But the problem with Maulers and Crushers is they will just straight up one-shot you at times, so keep that in mind. Then there's the Gunner, which is just a shooty. They just shoot a lot, and they hurt. They stun you in place, and they do so much damage so fast. They are horrible. If you have a couple of them shooting at you, you can just get downed like crazy quickly. It's dumb how fast these guys can kill you. But everything in this game can kill you pretty fast. Even the basic horde enemies will cut you down pretty significantly if you're just kind of doing whatever. Then there is Poxbursters. Poxbursters run up and explode and launch your teammates around and do a bunch of corruption damage, which I will talk about later, of course, and are just generally super loud. You can hear them. You will hear nothing else in this game that sounds like them. Little tip for these: don't shoot them if they're close. If they're far away, shoot them. That's fine. But if they're close, don't shoot them. They explode when they die, and that will just launch you and do damage to you guys that you don't really need. So instead, you're going to push them, and they're going to dodge backwards, and if you need to, dodge slide backwards if you want to have extra room. This will just pretty much make it so that you just bonk, and they go away from you, and they explode, as long as they jump towards you. There's Flamers, which just shoot fire at you. There's Tox Flamers, which shoot toxic fire at you. Pretty simple. There's Bulwarks, which are just big melee guys with a shield and a mace that are kind of annoying. There's Reapers, which are just Ogrins, big guys with heavy stubbers. They're like gunners, but they shoot slower, and they're tankier. Now there's Monstrosities. There's set spawn points in the maps for these. There is a bunch of stuff, but I am not going to go over that. We're going to give you the basics. There's Plague Ogrins, who are just big, tough guys, but if you shoot them in the head, I found they die the fastest of all the bosses that you can't just stun lock and be done with. Next is the Beast of Nurgle, who just spits and oozes stuff around, and sometimes they eat you, which is really annoying, and they'll whack their tail sometimes, which will just send you flying. They're tough, and it's rare that they die in any fast fashion, in my experience. Then there's the Chaos Spawn, who run around and whack you, or sometimes grab you and eat you to gain some health. They don't eat you all the way, but they take a little nibble out of your side. There is the new bosses too, Rodin and Rinda Karnak. Rodin shoots and throws little gas bombs, and Rinda dashes around like an anime character and tries to cut you. It's really annoying. Rodin is super easy to kill. You literally just can walk up to him and stun him and keep on whacking him until he's dead. It's simple. Rinda, however, dashes and attacks super fast. Like I said, she teleports around like she's some damn sword fighter from an anime, and will seem really hard to fight at first, but her attacks follow the same basic pattern. So if you just hold block and you pay attention, you learn her attack pattern, you can learn it in the first fight. That's what I did. The first time she showed up, she attacked me once, and I learned her attack pattern, and I just kind of dodged out of the way from them. Only one of them will spawn at a time unless you're doing a specific mission where you fight them at the end. So you shouldn't have a problem with Rodin covering the area and you not being able to move, and then Rinda showing up and killing you whenever you try to get away from the gas. Bosses, however, can spawn multiple of them at the same time, so do keep that in mind. These are just the only ones where I have never ever seen a case where they spawn together. Finally, there's the demon host. The demon host is so important for you to know. These silly little guys, they sit in place and they mutter and they talk to themselves until somebody is dumb enough to walk next to them and wake them up. Because, of course, they then proceed to choose somebody, generally the person who woke them up, and attack them until they're downed, and then force choke them until they die. Then they sometimes will be like, I'm still hungry, and kill another one of your teammates, or they'll just leave. However, there is something that you should be very aware of. If you have an Ogren, this does not mean you should do this, but if you have an Ogren with a shield and a mace, the demon host cannot kill you. You go to a wall, you plant your shield in front of you, you put your back to the wall, and the demon host cannot kill the big guy, so the rest of you can just stand there and beat it up because it chooses one person and attacks them over and over again. It can't do anything against you. You literally stand there with a shield and it's just kind of like, meh. I guess I'll swing at this shield over and over again, and you take no damage. And you get to pretty much purge it in the name of the God Emperor. Praise be. When you see a demon host, you should be marking it for your team. You should be paying attention to its whispers because the whispers are quite loud. And you have a chance when you walk close to it, it will start rising up and it'll make more noise, and your screen will kind of get this foggy, like, outer layer. And you should back up away from wherever you're going and be like, all right, let's be careful now. You should also make sure to, if you happen to have accidentally woken up a demon host, because sometimes that will happen. You'll accidentally wake up one. There's some places where they're in dumb parts of the map, or they just won't make noise sometimes, because this game is weird about that. You should just block and try to dodge attacks, or just try and block attacks. I actually find that blocking is just better. You should not be trying to just swing back into him because he will kill you so fast. Some other stuff for you to know that doesn't have to do with enemies but is important is ammo is just in crates and on stuff around the map. They come in these little crates or these bags. It's pretty easy. Grenades come in boxes. They're harder to find, but grenades can be pretty important. And then there is healing. I will finally tell you what corruption is. Yay! There's a lot of different forms of healing. There is med cases, whatever abilities your character you're playing might have. There is med stims. To start, let's go with health kits, because this will also tie into something from ammo. Health kits are packs that you find around the map and you grab them, and you can carry them around wherever. There's also a version of this where it's just an ammo pack where you grab it and you carry it around the map to wherever you want it to be. The health kits will heal a lot, but they won't heal corruption. They will heal your normal health, but not your corruption, and they will do it fast, and they will do it in a large area that your whole team can take advantage of. It does have a max amount of health it will heal. However, it is big enough to where, unless you guys are getting murdered, you should be fine as long as you just stay somewhere. You take a little bit of damage, but it'll just heal you back. Ammo crates have 4 charges, and they fully refill ammo for whoever walks up and grabs it. This includes any ammo that you may need to reload. So if it fully refills you to full max ammo, essentially. Medicae stations are stations that have set spawns around the map and have 1 to 4 charges. I find that the charges kind of are dependent on the team. So, like, if you guys are all good health except for one guy who's really low, you're probably going to have a Medicaid station that has one charge, I've found. These fully heal your health, including your corruption, and they also give you a little blessing, a little talk whenever you walk up to them and they stab you to heal you. You should be marking these for your teammates whenever someone's low, and generally give it to the lowest guy unless they're for some reason running a low damage build or they're trying to do a penance where you need to be low health. They also might need you to find a power cell to fix them and turn them back on. But that's not the normal, that's just sometimes. Now, med stims are a healing ability that heal a set amount of your health. I believe it is 33% of your health, and that includes health and corruption. It just goes right through it, starting with your health and then cutting through your corruption. They're an item that you can carry around. They can only target one person, and you can target yourself or a teammate with them just kind of whenever in the middle of combat. There's also more stims that do a lot of different stuff, but we're not going to talk about those. Corruption, I will now tell you about corruption. Corruption is it will be a purple part of your health bar that cannot be healed by normal means. So it is harder to get back, essentially. There's abilities that will clear corruption. There's a zealot ability that clears corruption every so often for your teammate. It like slowly brings it down for everybody in coherency. However, for the most part, it is hard to get rid of. It also can make it so that if you have, let's say, a full health bar of corruption, let's say you have 2 wounds, which are the different segments of your health bar. If one of them is all the way filled with corruption and you get downed, you will instantly die. And you'll have to be recovered by your teammates at a later time. All right, so now we get into the main part of this video for if you want to actually play it, and the main part, I guess, of where you're going to hear from what I actually think of the game, my opinions. You know from down now, you know the very basics, and here's my, as I said, opinions on what's good and bad and what my rating for the game overall is. The best parts of this game are the combat and the banter. The combat feels great. It feels crunchy and crazy without overloading your senses, and it looks just nice while you do it. The melee weapons always feel good. They feel like they should almost all the time. It's very rare I find a weapon that doesn't feel like, hey, this is a hammer, but it doesn't feel like it's crunching my enemy. No, when you swing a thunder hammer, you're crunching through people. And the banter between the rejects, the characters you play as, is always great too. It's fun and it fits the world thematically. Zealots will talk about their love for the God Emperor Mankind. All the classes but Psyker will talk about how much they hate Psyker, and anything an Ogryn says is pretty much great, normally. Now, of course, there is bad stuff to this game. It's not a perfect game. The worst things are the story and the weapons. I know these aren't awesome points. They don't have a ton to do with the actual game a lot of times, but the story is just bland. It doesn't really do anything. It's supposed to have a big final like triumphant moment, but it doesn't actually amount to anything, and it just kind of comes down to meh. This mission is a thing. This is a thing in the story, but that's not what matters. The gameplay is what matters to this game, is why I play it. So it's not a huge problem. The weapons are meh. It kind of sucks to get cool new ones. The loot is randomized in this game, which can be a problem, and you can buy gray versions of whatever gun or melee weapon you want, but it's still really annoying, especially to get blessings and such to make your weapons actually good. I find the best way to get blessings and stuff like that is to get them from the guy you will get daily quests from called Milk, Sir Milk. But as I said before, these aren't really huge problems. They're not stuff that's forced down your throat. The weapons thing is just a little annoying, and the story, who cares? I'm here to kill stuff. And now, of course, here's my rating. I love this game. It's one of my favorite ones that I play right now, and while as of recording this, I haven't played it a ton lately, I do plan on getting back into it after I stop doing whatever I'm doing in my other games. There is some issues with it, of course. There's also some running issues with it. where, like, let's say you have a PC. The PC I've played this game on, it is so incredibly loud when you load up this game. It is kind of dumb. But despite that, it's a solid 8 out of 10. Really good, really fun, but it's not a perfect game, which, of course, makes sense. I love this game, and I think that you guys should play it if you haven't. And if you have Game Pass, just give it a try. It's on there. And who knows, you may find that you really like it. So, yeah, that's that. Bye.